Hey friends, welcome to Shin's Greens. Today I'm going to show you how I freshen up my container garden. Here I have a container of green onions and peppers and it looks like a mess. The green onions are growing all over the place. I've got random bits of composted material scattered here, and I've already harvested all my peppers so they are done for this season, so we need to get it out. It's time to clean up this bed and amend the soil for the next crop of vegetables. So I'm going to pull out all the green onions, select out the best looking ones, and replant them because they will keep producing and I can keep harvesting green onions all year long. I'm also going to plant romaine lettuce in here because fall is a great time to grow lettuces and they grow very well in a small space like this. So let's get started. I'm just pulling up the green onions and trimming off any dead leaves. The dead leaves will go back into the soil and add nutrients back into the soil. Let me show you what I compost in here. I've got an avocado pit, a piece of pepper, and here is a papaya volunteer plant that came up from my compost. I'm doing a separate video on how to grow papayas from seed, and I already have too many papaya plants, so I don't need this one. This is going back into the soil. And back here, I have a raspberry volunteer plant that also came up from my compost. I have too many of these, so we're going to recycle this one too. Now let's pull out this pepper plant. You can actually grow peppers as a perennial plant if you overwinter it, but this particular plant is pretty stunted, did not produce a whole lot of peppers, so I'm going to compost this one. I'm cutting up all the green waste and I'm going to bury it under the soil so it'll all break down. This is one of the things that I love most about gardening. Absolutely nothing gets wasted, and you turn garbage back into fresh organic produce. Now we're going to add one of the most magical soil amendments in the world, and that is worm castings, or worm compost. You can use regular compost too, but my regular compost is not ready yet, so this is what I'm using today. I make homemade worm compost because it's just too easy to make, and it costs almost nothing. And you can do it in a small space. One issue with homemade worm compost is that it can get heavy and dense and cakey, so I add either perlite or vermiculite to break it up and loosen the texture. If I'm growing plants that need more drainage and don't like very wet soil, I add perlite. If I'm growing plants that like a lot of water, I add vermiculite because it acts like a sponge and helps retain moisture. Since I'm growing lettuce in here and they like more water, I'm going to add vermiculite, and I'm going to mix it in really well to break up those clumps. Finally, I'm going to top it all off with store-bought potting mix. And this step is optional. I just don't have enough compost right now to fill the rest of the container, so I'm using what I have. Let's add our green onions back in. Now here I have romaine lettuce seeds that I saved from my own lettuce last spring. I simply let the seed pods dry on the plant and then I cut off the pods. Then when you break up the seed pods, you can separate the individual seeds and just scatter them in the soil. Now this is way too many seeds for this pot, but I can just thin them out later. Then make sure to water it well and then wait for the magic to happen. This is about 2 weeks later and they are sprouting so well, and look how pretty they are. Okay, now it's time to thin out the seedlings to give them more room to grow. I'm going to pull out some of the larger seedlings to plant in a separate pot. Then I'm going through and thinning out the smaller, weaker seedlings. It's better to cut them rather than pull them out because you don't want to disturb the roots of the nearby seedlings. And there you go. We've taken this old, messy, spent container and refreshed it for another season. I hope this gives you some inspiration to grow your own food. Thanks for watching Shin Screens, and see you next time.